Hey everyone, Chris Carter here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. We've got Mike DeFabo on today. Aaron Rodgers went on Pat McAfee Show and didn't say a whole lot, but there was a couple things that might have tipped his hand, or at least the Steelers' hand, about what they're doing at quarterback this offseason. We'll talk about that. Jonnu Smith being cut and what that means for Pat Freiermuth and this offense moving forward. And as we get closer to free agency, the trades are popping. Will the Steelers be a player? All that here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find this show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first system every day, because we're your team every day. A reminder, the Locked On Steelers podcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcasting network in the world. As before, we're joined by the man himself, Mike DeFabo from The Athletic. He's their Steelers reporter. We love having him on here. And Mike, we were all glued to, I guess, YouTube earlier today.
Hold on. Can I say something, Chris?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
First of all, we could tell that you're a little bit under the weather. This is like Chris Carter's flu game, the Michael Jordan flu game, because Chris Carter, he is a battler. He is a fighter. He is not going to let a little bit of cold or a little bit of whatever is going on with him keep him down. He's going to be playing through it. I love it.
I'm drinking all my fluids right now. It's pretty ridiculous. I feel terrible. But the show must
get into it.
Let's get into the show. Must go. This is my third show today, Mike. We're pushing. But Mike, with getting into Aaron Rodgers, he was on a big show. He went for 90 plus minutes on Pat McAfee, and there was a whole lot of nothing said there. He talked about how much he liked Love Is Blind. Shout out to that. Actually, the finale was actually pretty crazy. But the other thing that I thought was interesting was, AJ Hawk kept trying to joke around and ask, okay, so are you joining the Steelers or not? And he would push that around. But then eventually there was at one point when he gets asked about the Steelers coaching staff and their new hires. And he talked about how much he said he likes James Campen. He said, I'd be lying if I didn't say that was something that I enjoyed seeing. It's some of the guys that had the greatest impact on my career. Campen used to take me out on the road to eat and all that kind of stuff. And then he said, when going on about that, he said, obviously, the coaching staff would be a draw if we go down that path, but it takes two to tango. We'll see what happens when we get into free agency. Mike, that was the most valuable part. The two to tango means whenever someone says that, it means I have interest. I want to do this thing. Is the ball in the Steelers' court here? Is this just about the Steelers exploring their options before they actually sign Aaron Rodgers? Or do you think that's maybe just a misnomer from a very long conversation?
Yeah, I was kind of confused by that takes two to tango thing, because I think the Steelers have been pretty clear publicly that they would like to have Aaron Rodgers back. I found it interesting when he said there's no contract sitting in front of him that he has to make a decision on. That I think was puzzling to me. I didn't know what to make of that. And maybe part of that has to do with, you probably don't put a contract in front of Aaron Rodgers and just say like, hey, take as long as you want with that. Right. You probably have to get an answer from him. Are you playing football next year? And he goes, yes. And then you say, do you want it to be here? Let's talk terms. Let's talk parameters. Everything that all the on the record and off the record comments from the Pittsburgh Steelers lead me to believe they think that Aaron Rodgers is coming back. They think they're getting an answer within the next week or two, and they think that he's going to be coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it's Aaron Rodgers still. And I think that today, my biggest takeaway from the whole thing was Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. Yep. And there's still that, even if you think you know what's going to happen, even if you have people telling you what they think is going to happen, until he makes that decision, there's still that air of mystery and uncertainty that surrounds him. So ultimately, I just hope, Chris, that we don't go the whole way down the path that we did last year. I hope that if Aaron wants to pursue free agency in some sort of way, or see what the market is going to give him in terms of a dollar figure, I just hope that it's wrapped up by next Friday at the absolute latest, and we're not dragging this thing out.
Here's another thing that I think tips the hand as far as what's going on here. How many times has Aaron Rodgers said on Pat McAfee, I don't need this stuff. When I'm done, I'm disappear. You're never going to hear from me again. So if we're still hearing from Aaron Rodgers, something tells me he's not done yet. And so I'm with you. I think what's happening right now is the Steelers are holding out for any possibility that could be out there. They're just crossing their T's, dotting their I's. What's going to happen is free agency is going to come. They're not going to make a big players for Kyler Murray. They're going to sign who they can sign. And they're going to say, all right, Aaron, get in here. We're running it.
I think they really would prefer an answer sooner than later from Aaron, though, because
they would.
You have to figure that a lot of the subsequent decisions are going to be made based on what Aaron Rodgers decides. From first and foremost, how much money are you going to have? What's the number for Aaron Rodgers? That dictates what your budget is in free agency. Then from there, you also need to get an answer from him to be like, okay, if Aaron Rodgers is coming back, you're going to want a particular type of wide receiver. You're going to want a guy maybe like Romeo Doubs, who succeeds with a lot of like slants and hitches and things that would fit Aaron Rodgers' skill set, or a veteran guy like Mike Evans that fits him. You would have to craft your roster in such a way to maximize that first decision that you're going to have. And I just feel like he's the first domino. And for that reason, I feel like they really would prefer an answer from Aaron Rodgers before the start of free agency or very early in free agency. Whether they get it or not, again, it's Aaron Rodgers.
Right. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are thinking, man, forget it. Go get Kyler Murray. We talked about that yesterday with Nick Farabaugh. Man, forget it. Go draft Ty Simpson, or man, we got Will Howard. I'm gonna just look at y'all crazy for a second when I say when people tell me that they got Will Howard, and that's the reason why they shouldn't go get a veteran quarterback. I like Will Howard. I said on this show, you can go back to when I came back from the combine last year on this show, and I said, go get Will Howard in the 4th round. He was my guy. You're not banking on that man as a starter. You're giving him a chance to work his way up. There's a difference there. But Mike, it just, this is the thing that Nick and I settled it on yesterday's show. The people that are banging the table for Kyler, banging the table for Aaron, neither one of them is going to make this roster a Super Bowl contender right now. And maybe if you want to follow the logic of what about Sam Darnold last year? Okay, maybe Kyler Murray fits in. If you hit in the draft a lot this year and you sign like a really good free agent or two, maybe this roster does take a step up and Kyler Murray's athletic enough and just a good enough veteran to get you there. But maybe Aaron Rodgers is the same thing. I don't know. But I still think this team is still in that rebuilding process. I think they're in the back half of their rebuilding process. I think that they've rebuilt the O-line, the D-line's underway. They've got some core players for the future. That's why Omar Khan talked a lot about re-signing guys like Darnell Washington, Joey Porter Jr., Nick Herbig, et cetera, et cetera. But they still have to add more pieces to that puzzle, and I don't think just quarterback is what's going to put this over the top. And I don't think the options that are readily available for them are going to put them over the top.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Kyler Murray. I really am not. And I think that's what's swaying me towards. I mean, I feel like in a lot of ways the Steelers are stuck where they were a year ago, where they're sitting here saying there are not a lot of good options. And of the bad options, Aaron Rodgers might be the best one. The problem is that was supposed to be, okay, they're signing Aaron Rodgers, and then a year later, Rodgers is going to get what he wants, which is one final good season, maybe make a run at things, maybe capitalize on a highly paid defense. And then the Steelers, it was supposed to be that bridge to the next class, into that next group of quarterbacks that was going to get him out of this uncertain state. The problem that they're in right now, you bring back Aaron Rodgers, my concern would be you're right back here next year where you've had a good, not great season. And you also aren't poor enough that you're in its fantastic position to draft the quarterback, or what is even that class going to be because of NIL and who's going to come out and who's not. So they're in a tough spot right here because it's the most important position, but right now it's become the most difficult one to find the answer at.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we want to talk about the Steelers' first move, really, of this offseason. That's cutting Jonnu Smith. That happened. I want to talk about that with Mike, what that means, what it means for Pat Freiermuth, and some things that Mike wrote that I think would be very interesting to tell the tale of what the Steelers are doing this offseason. All that here and more on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Mike DeFabo. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Matt Derry from the Locked On Lions podcast. The people I love depend on me. If I'm gone, the financial responsibilities don't disappear. I didn't want my family figuring things out during the hardest moment of their lives. That's why I knew only one place to go. I chose life insurance through my friends at Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. I love the folks at Ethos. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get the free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. That is ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Application times and rates may vary.
We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm Chris Carter, your host here with Mike DeFabo, Steelers reporter for The Athletic. I want to remind people, as always, you can join the Everydayers Club. If you're a big fan of the Locked On Steelers podcast, you can join the Everydayers Club for Locked On Steelers. Be sure when you get there, join by typing in the code free agency. That's free agency, all caps, no spaces. You can do that through March 15th, and you get ad-free episodes of the Locked On Steelers podcast, and you can keep the conversation going in the Discord channel. Mike, who's
an all everydayer is Vince DeFabo, my brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out,
Vince,
man.
I have a podcast, but it's not his favorite podcast. His favorite podcast is the Chris Carter podcast.
You guys need to have me on your podcast. I'm saying, like, I will come and I will pop off for you guys. You guys want the Yinsiders getting going.
We're gonna have to do that sometime. But for real, no love from my brother. He likes you better.
But let's get to the Steelers moves that happened as well, because that's the thing that I think that's going to be talked about is, and granted, this was the move that we all knew was happening. Jonnu Smith being cut by the Steelers. This was, very obvious, just didn't bring the production that, I think the Steelers had hoped. Jonnu Smith, a $7 million cap savings on his cut. He was going to be a $10.8 million cap hit here. Mike, this isn't a surprise, but you pointed out in your reporting that, like, teams were interested in Pat Freiermuth as a possibility. Does this kind of kill that interest entirely as far as, like, what was happening there? What's been your read as far as how the NFL looks at the Steelers tight ends?
Yeah, this was a thing that I reported that got very much aggregated, and it became a bit of a game of telephone where I think each aggregation, each site that took the reporting started to evolve it and change the wording a little bit until it was something that wasn't what I had reported exactly. So what I had understood was when I talked to a lot of people at the Combine, the league as a whole looked at the Steelers tight end room and they said, this is a team that has a surplus right here. And if Arthur Smith, a tight end obsessed offensive coordinator, wasn't able to maximize or to take advantage of these tight ends, Mike McCarthy, as he evolves it, there's no way he's going to need all of these tight ends. And so they looked at the group and they're like, well, there's one that we would like, Pat Freiermuth. Of that group, he would be the one that you would be interested in. So they started asking around and seeing, hey, could he be available in a trade? And pretty clearly and quickly, they got the answer that the Steelers were not going to move Pat Freiermuth. Okay. This got aggregated and evolved into people saying that I reported that the Steelers were, like, getting these offers and stuff. It never got to that level. It was people looking at it and saying, there's no way in hell the Steelers are going to keep all these tight ends in their roster. Let's try to get the good one. Right. And the Steelers were always committed to Pat Freiermuth. And I think that this really was kind of an inevitable move that now clears up salary cap space by releasing Jonnu Smith. And now it streamlines what was a muddy depth chart. Now you kind of know where everybody slots in on that depth chart. And Pat Freiermuth, his role had reduced to like 50% of snaps. Now he should see 60 to 65 to 70% of snaps in this new Mike McCarthy offense.
I mean, heck, what about 80 to 90? He don't take him off the field unless he needs a break and you put Darnell Washington in. Like, that dude is a playmaker. And how many times, Mike, did you, me, and Jenna included, like, we would be talking about the game plan like this would be a heck of a week to just throw the ball to Pat Freiermuth. And then there were games where the offense would be struggling. All of a sudden, they throw it to Pat Freiermuth, and then the offense is moving, everything's clicking, the crowd's chanting "move," and everyone's happy. It just made no sense.
Look, The more you're chanting Muth, you can't chant fire Tomlin. You can't chant the same thing at the same time. They would have saved Mike Tomlin's job had they just thrown it to Muth.
Yourself there. But I feel you. But to your point, you can't, when Freiermuth got involved in the offense, you saw it. Not only it fed him, but it fed everyone else. Because then again, when the tight ends feeding, then the defense has to be like, oh man, we do have to worry about that guy. And then it takes away the double teams from DK Metcalf. And to me, that has to be something that Mike McCarthy achieves this year. If there's one thing that, I mean, there's many things that I think Arthur Smith didn't do right, but if there's one thing the offense didn't get right last year, it was involving him. Because if you involve Pat Freiermuth more, it makes it that much harder to pay that much attention and double team DK Metcalf. And this is why also I think the Steelers have to hit at wide receiver in this draft class. If you go and get a Mekhi Lemon, a Jordan Tyson, one of these ultra playmakers that is going to come in the NFL and be a serious wide receiver 1 threat, that starts as a wide receiver 2 and it works his way up there. If you get a guy like that, and then you put that in with DK Metcalf, and then you still get another 3rd or 4th round wide receiver, and then you still have Pat Freiermuth, then you still have Darnell Washington in an offense where Mike McCarthy is like, we're going, we got this rolling. That's the stuff that can make it less predictable for defenses. That's the stuff that can say, hey, you want to double team this guy over here? Well, this guy's going to eat you up over here. And then DK Metcalf gets his one-on-ones. And we saw last year when the Ravens were leaving DK Metcalf on one-on-one, it was a problem. And so I think Pat Freiermuth needs to be part of the plan. I think letting go Jonnu Smith, thank you for your services, but the Steelers needed this move to happen. I'll be curious to see if they bring back Connor Hayward as the 3rd guy, or if they go and get a whole other 3rd person in the draft or free agency. But Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington. I also say this, Mike, I want to get your opinion on this. Lock up Darnell Washington, right? Omar Khan. 20 more of those guys.
Yeah, and I think that also frees up Omar Khan. I've kind of been hard on him both in writing and to his face when I've asked him questions. And I asked him, like, look, did the way that you used Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith justify having 2 of the top 10 players paid at that same position on your same roster? And his answer was like, well, we have the cap space to fit them both in. Well, yeah, that's true, but you didn't really utilize them. You diminished both of them. But the cap space point is interesting because now if you got the cap space, you can give it to Darnell. And Darnell is interesting because to me, when he was coming out of college, he seemed like the potential for one contract type of guy. There were all the question marks about his knees. And man, like you watch him walk around sometimes and you're thinking like, this guy walks like an old man. But he has never, barely, other than the broken arm, missed any time. And it seems like his knees are getting better. And he's played so well, he's finally starting to scratch the surface of his potential. I think that Arthur Smith, with him, initially saw him as like just a big blocking tight end. And it wasn't until Aaron Rodgers came in, really, that I think that truly unlocked him because he saw him as that Mercedes Lewis type of guy that he had in a red zone threat. So, I think Darnell has been a great piece of this offense and absolutely somebody that they should try to get a contract done with.
Yeah, I hear you there. I agree entirely. As Omar Khan said, give me 20 Darnell Washingtons, I'll take with him. I think him and Pat Freiermuth,
I like that offense. Imagine that offense with 20 Arthur Smith's like, can I come back? I want to coordinate that one.
Just hand off to Darnell Washington, hand off to Darnell Washington, hand off to that would be. To be fair, who would stop that? That would be a really tough sell for me. Do
you have Madden? I want you to do create a player and make 20 Darnell Washington.
But people used
someone
to do
who plays
that,
Madden. Somebody tweeted us and play a game with 20 Darnell Washington
and see what happens there. You know what? The tush push would be unstoppable. That would just good luck stopping that group. But
good luck stopping them in general. It would be the most funny. The other offense I want someone that has Madden to do is put together on Madden 2019, put together the Steelers Jalen Ramsey, get Jalen Ramsey,
right?
Get
Darius Slay,
Jonnu Smith before they traded him. Get Darius Slay. That would have been a nasty team.
That would have been a very, very fun team to see. Aaron Rodgers in 2019.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's actually a funny thing to think.
DK Metcalf.
DK. Yeah, because he would have been. Well, he was still in college back then, right?
Okay, so maybe you got to do like 2020 or 2021.
Yeah, but
When did he
either
come
way, to your point, that would be kind of interesting. We're gonna take a quick break. When we come back,
No, he was a rookie. DK was a rookie in 2019.
Oh, snap! There you go, 2019 man. Where y'all at? But we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about moves happening around the NFL and whether the Steelers will be in on such trades because some teams are making big splash moves before free agency even begins. That's next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Mike DeFabo, stick. We'll be right back. But first, remind you today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. March is a time to celebrate women, especially around International Women's Day, and to recognize just how much they carry at work, in relationships, in families, and in all the unseen roles they step into every single day. It's easy to celebrate that strength, but it's just as important to make space for their emotional well-being. And honestly, that goes for all of us. I think about my mother and how much she carries without always saying so. And it makes me think how many of us are doing the same thing. The roles we play, the expectations we carry, the pressure we don't always talk about. Therapy can help with all of that, creating balance, setting healthy boundaries, and supporting your overall well-being. With over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 6 million people served worldwide, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, and it works. Fill out a short questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, and if it's not the right fit, switch at any time. Your emotional well-being matters. Find support and feel lighter in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, Chris Carter, Mike DeFabo of The Athletic. Mike, the Chiefs made a big splash. They traded away Trent McDuffie for a first-round pick and an assortment of day 3 picks from the Rams. They get their cornerback. It's funny, and I think this is the 29th overall pick that they traded away. It's funny, I was mocking cornerbacks like crazy to the Rams. In fact, I just did my first full first round mock draft that went out in the Post-Gazette, post-gazette.com if you want to check that. But I had in that the Rams taking, I think it was Jermod McCoy. Yeah, I had the Rams taking Jermod McCoy at 13th overall. With Trent McDuffie, maybe not so much now, because now they're going to be in play to say, hey, you know what, we can get best player available. Don't have to lock in on a corner. But here's my question to you, Mike. The Steelers, are they more likely to be buyers in such situations or sellers in that they're the one trading away a playmaker that could get them a first or a second round pick?
Probably buyers, I would think. I don't know who would be necessarily a trade candidate. Now, I actually heard some rumblings about the Steelers and Trent McDuffie. And,
okay,
you know, I had heard that if the price tag had dropped below a first-round pick, then maybe the Steelers would start getting involved in that conversation. Because obviously they need a corner as well opposite Joey Porter Jr., and they've got the cap space to fit somebody like that in. So I thought that would have been a very interesting marriage in Pittsburgh, but, you know, the price tag was always going to be a first-round pick, and I don't think that because they weren't in play. But I don't know. I think that the buyers probably makes more sense for them. I don't know who you think would be like a trade candidate that they could ship out.
That's the thing, right? I know that a lot of people were thinking, oh, they could just trade away TJ Watt. Oh, they could just trade away Alex Highsmith. More and more, it seems like they're not doing that. And especially when Omar Khan talks about signing Nick Herbig, I think they want to keep that rotation of edge rushers. You know, they're keeping Pat Freiermuth. I think they're keeping Darnell Washington. And so then you kind of get through, those are the deeper parts of the team. You know, they're not trading away Joey Porter Jr. He's their only cornerback. And, you know, like they're not doing that. I don't see them trading away Jaylen Warren, especially with Kenneth Gainwell being a free agent right now. They only have DK Metcalf at wide receiver.
That maybe would be if you're trading away somebody. I don't think it's going to happen, but maybe if they sign Kenneth Gainwell, then Jaylen Warren.
Maybe.
But I doubt that because he's on a pretty good contract, reasonable contract, and he's also pretty valuable. And I actually think he's going to be a better player in Mike McCarthy's offense. I think he was underutilized by Arthur Smith throughout Arthur Smith's entire tenure. So I don't see that being a trade away guy. So I think that the question would be at outside linebacker. That's where the speculation is. You know, at least people lie, but what I heard at the combine was The plan was they're going to try to re-sign Nick Herbig, and they're going to keep Highsmith. And I think that the question really at that specific position is, does Nick Herbig ultimately sign his deal? Because you could see it a couple different ways. Does he say, okay, you're committing enough money to me, I get a big raise from what you're giving me on my rookie contract, it makes it worth my while to sign this? Or is he going to want to try to hit free agency and play this year out and go to a team that maybe values him as a true number one guy, or, starting caliber guy that's going to get the starting caliber reps,
right,
where he's going to get his big payday. And then obviously different tags, franchise tag and transition tag and everything like that also is part of the conversation as well when you're factoring that in. But the way that I would view that dynamic is kind of like the first domino would be, can you get Nick Herbig signed? And from there, then my understanding from what I have heard, it seems like the likely outcome is they would keep all of them, at least for now. Because, how many years have there been, Chris, where the Steelers look like they've got depth at outside linebacker, all of a sudden they lose one of them, TJ Watt, they lose Alex Highsmith. Now you're scrambling because you don't have enough. You can go very quickly from looking like you've got a surplus to looking like you don't have enough in a hurry. So I think that they would end up keeping all those guys.
That makes a lot of sense too. I think that there's the Steelers right now. I think they like the crew that they've been putting together. And they've made it clear, listen, this is not a team that they're trying to tear apart right now. They're building a nucleus for the future. And yes, there's some old heads in that nucleus, but those old heads have been part of developing guys. Like Nick Herbig, gives so much credit to TJ Watt for how he's grown. You talk about Derek Harmon. He was talking about how much Cam Hayward's helped him. Same with Keanu Benton. I feel you in that. I think that the Steelers kind of like where they're at. The only way I see the Steelers being big movers or shakers in a trade is if just something presents itself that's like, we can't pass that up. Like if Trent was available for a second or a third, that would have been like, oh, okay, we got our number one.
Or like the Minka situation. I'm not sure that they were necessarily looking to move Minka, but like a trade came together and Minka needed to be a part of it. Something like that where there's a player that becomes so interesting to them that they move on from a player that initially, as we're sitting here today, they're not planning to, so I can see that. I mean, look, there could be a school of thought literally to be like, okay, let's hit the reset button because of that, move TJ Watt, move some other guys. I just don't think they're going to do that. Every indication that they've had publicly has been, they want to try to go for something this year. And especially, you don't bring back a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers, or at least do business with him to this point, if you don't think that you can do something this year. If you're not a team that's in a win-now-like mode, and you don't trade a TJ Watt if you're in a win-now type mode. So I just don't know if they have anything that's truly worth trading, or a position where they feel comfortable enough that they would be willing to trade something.
I'm right with you. I think that this is the Steelers. As much as exciting it is to see other teams making these moves, I'm not sitting here predicting that they're going to be one of these big movers and shakers. I think it's more so they need to be looking at right now who will they be able to keep on their roster right now, as far as the guys that are getting ready to have their contracts expire after next season. And then, what space they have, which free agents can they come in? Who will they get to fill Isaac Seumalo's spot? Because I imagine that's a primary target there. All those things we'll be keeping a close eye on here as free agency continues.
Yeah, I think you did a great job though, Chris. I was just looking up the picture of the Michael Jordan flu game, like his hands on his knees, or the one with it where he's hugging, being supported by Scottie Pippen.
That's me right now, bro. That is so me right now.
But you did it.
But we made it, baby, in under 30 minutes.
There's a conspiracy theory that it was just bad pizza all along.
It was just bad, yeah. And it was like food poisoning. It was intentional food poisoning. I saw that in The Last Dance. Maybe that's what happened to me. Someone gave me some bad juju because they want my numbers to go down. We don't stop recording here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Mike, thanks so much for joining us here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Let people know they can find you, follow you, and get more of your work.
Yeah, definitely. I keep it simple. It's just at Mike DeFabo on all social media. Just go ahead and follow me there. And you can always read my stuff on The Athletic. We've started to take our stuff from behind the paywall. So if you follow me,
nice.
I've been personally tweeting out the gift link So Merry Christmas to you and happy birthday, and enjoy those gift links.
There you have it. Check out Mike's work at The Athletic. He does a great job. We love having him here. Mike, thanks for joining us. Thank you all for joining us here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or Blue Sky, wherever you get social media. My handle is always at Carter Critiques. Read my work in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette by going to post-gazette.com, including my full first-round mock draft and a breakdown that I have on the safety position coming out today. All that in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And as always, catch me every day, Monday through Friday, on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Like this video, do enjoy it. Subscribe to this channel to get all of those daily Monday through Friday episodes. Back here tomorrow with more right here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.